Hey guys, today we're going to teach you how to do this fingerless glove made on the Addy 46. This is the completed one, and I'm going to walk you through each and every step. Let's get started. We're going to cast on with our waste yarn. Go around, front, around, front, around, front. And we're going to do that all the way through. And last pin, you should be going around the back. If you don't go around the back, that means you're not doing it. Something did not go happen correctly. We're going to crank out a few rows of your waste yarn. I usually do in between 6 to 8 rows. Okay, so when I usually do waste yarn, I do 2 separate colors, and I'm using opposite colors from my working yarn. So I'm going to do 1 single row of this orange waste yarn. I'm going to hold the 2 together, and I'm going to pull through. I'm going to immediately reset my counter. I know it's off my view. Reset my counter so that way the next row will be row 1. Open up my feeder, take my waste yarn out, and then this is going to be my working yarn. There we go. Hold those 2 together, and then we're going to crank out 45 rows, and I'll probably meet you guys at the end. Okay, so we ended the row. Now I'm going to cut a really long tail. And it's usually, the way I usually do it is just go around, almost around once, because you don't need that much. Don't cast off. We are actually going to switch with waste yarn. So I'm going to put the old working yarn in here, and I'm going to do the same exact thing. I'm going to use 1 single row of waste yarn. Put it in the feeder under that last pin. I'm going to crank out 1 single row of this waste yarn. And then I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to cut that off a little bit. I'm going to take that one out, and then I'm going to switch out with another color of waste yarn, and this is going to help you out at the end, and I'll show you the reason why. And we're going to do roughly about 6 to 8 rows. So you're just going to crank until you have 6 to 8 rows, or until, in my case, until I run out of yarn. Sorry, I got a little knot in there. And then with waste yarn, you just actually let it go until, so that's the end of my waste yarn. I'm just going to keep cranking until everything falls off the Addy. As you can see, it's falling off. Okay, now that we have our work off of the Addy, what we're going to do is give it a nice little stretch. Stretch out your work. Give it a couple of stretch. And then what we're going to do is we are going to slip stitch. So I put all my tails on one side. We're going to make sure no tails are coming through. And we're just going to slip stitch this closed. Grab out my crochet hook. I personally like to use a 4.4 millimeter hook. For me, that's works best for me. And since we're using the Addy 46 pin, I'm just going to count to 23. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23. I'm going to grab that 23rd chain, and what I'm going to do is I have two on here, or I have one on here right now. I'm going to grab that next one. As you can see, I have two on here. This is what's called a slip stitch. All you're going to do is bring that the side that's closest to the hook, and you're just going to pull it through. So we grabbed that one, and now we're going to grab this side. And this is why it's easier to, if you use different color yarns, it's going to be easier for your yarn to stand out. So you're going to grab that one. As you see, I have it closest to the hook, and I'm just going to pull it through. And now we went from this side, we're going to go to the opposite side, and we're just going to keep going through that the whole way down, back and forth each side. Grab that side, pull it through. Grab that side, pull it through. Make sure you're not grabbing your waste yarn. And when you pull it through, make sure you don't pull too tight, because it'll make the next stitches a little bit harder to grab. So grab that one, pull it through. That one I did a little bit tighter, as you guys can see. It's getting a little bit harder to see. So pull that through. And we're just going to go all the way down. Go as slow as you need to. Don't worry about going fast. Just take your time. And if you can hear the TV in the background, I am so sorry about that. And once you get back down to the last one, it will be a little bit harder to find that last piece. Back and forth, making sure not to grab your waste yarn. You can also count. So when you first start, you can actually count 1, 2, 3, all the way to 46. That's way you know exactly if you missed a stitch or not. What I do, I start out on the side closest to me when I first grab up that first stitch. And I know if I start on this one, I should end on this one. That's what helps me out, but you do whatever works best for you. If you're starting, I would definitely start out doing the counting method. That's how I started. We're getting closer to the end, so your stitches will be a little bit harder to find. Okay, we got that side. We're going to get this one. There we go. We got that one, and we got two more left. We got this one is the second to last, and then this one can be a little bit harder. I tend to pull my my waste yarn, and sometimes it helps it out, so that one was a little bit easier for me to find. You're going to pull through, and then before you let go, you're going to take that tail that you have right here of your working yarn. You're going to wrap around and then pull through, and then pull the whole entire thing through. The way I do my waste yarn, as you guys can see, I did have two. I have my tails on my left side. What I'm going to do is grab that orange on my right side, and I'm going to completely pull it completely out of the equation. Making sure there is no knots in that side of the yarn. I'm going to set that aside. Now you don't have to unravel. All it does is you just pull it right off, And as you can see, you're left with a big donut is what I call this. Always, always, always give your work a stretch. If you do have a dropped or missed stitch, it will start unraveling all the way down until your work is completely gone. Okay, we are good on that side. And I'm going to go to the opposite side. And we're going to do the same exact thing. And I'm going to speed up this process because we just went through it again. Okay, so now we're just going to fold it in half. Constantly give our work a nice little stretch. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use this handy dandy darning needle. As you guys can see, it has a little pointed end, which it makes it a lot easier when you're doing the mattress stitching. All right, so I always do everything on my right side because I am a right-handed person. I'm going to kind of scroll in. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to tell you guys, if you are new to this, use your stitch markers. Your stitch markers are going to be your friends. So what we're going to do is we're going to follow the stitching all the way down. As you guys can see, the V's are going that way. So we want to make sure we follow it. I'm going to put one halfway through. And then I'm going to go all the way down, making sure that I go through the same exact stitching. And I'm going to do the same exact thing on the opposite side. And what we're going to do is we're going to make sure our V's are going the same direction. Sometimes you will have to kind of move your work around just to get it in the correct location that you need it to be. So we're going to work down all the way down this one. So I'm going to go ahead and put a stitch marker right there. And then same, I'll go all the way down following that same exact row. There we go. And that's where we're going to end up. So my work is on the very top on the right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab those first 2 posts. I'm going to make sure I don't go in through that top one. I'm going to grab that one single post right here and grab the opposite post. As you guys can see, I do have 2 posts on there. So it's going to be the V inside the V. So I'm going to grab 2 on that side and I'm going to pull all the way through, making sure I don't pull too tight. And then on the opposite side, I'm going to grab 2 on the opposite. And we're going to do that for 12 stitches down, making sure that we don't pull too tight. So that's 2. This is 4. 4, 6, 6, 8, and 8, 10, 10, and last 2, 12, and then 12. So when I get here, I like to put my middle finger in the middle of my work, as you guys can see, and then hold it on, and then we're just going to do that pull. This is going to put all your work together. Be careful not to pull too tight right here, otherwise it'll start bunching up. And we just want to give a nice little stretch. As you guys can see, everything is lined up, very, very seamless. Now here's where I differ from a lot of people. So what I do is, you guys see where it's coming out of that V right here. I go on the outside and then pull it through. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab one V on this side and another V on this side. So I'm going through 2 stitches on one on each side. and that's going to give you that extra stitch. And I do it one more time. A lot of people will actually stop their work right here. I just continue it all the way down. So once you get that, you're going to count 8 stitches. So I usually start right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So I'm going to put my finger right down there, and then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to work this needle all the way through, and then I'm going to come out right there after my 8th one, and that way you won't see that work. So we're going to pull it through and making sure we don't pull too tight. And then I'm going to do the same exact thing on the opposite side. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. That actually works out for me. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that 8th stitch. I'm going to pull it out. I can remove my stitch markers, making sure you guys, you're going through that same exact row that you were on the opposite side. So actually, as you guys can see, I did not, so I'm just going to back my work up, put my needle back on, and then we're going to continue. Making sure I'm still in camera view. So as you guys can see, it go right here. And now we can actually remove these stitch markers on both sides. So same thing that I did for the top, giving that extra stitch. I'm going to go right outside that stitch. I'm going to pull it a little bit tighter, and then what I'm going to do is give it that extra stitch. So I'm grabbing that V on that side, that V on that side, and I'm going to pull through. Now this one you do want to tighten it up, but make sure you don't tighten it where it goes through right here. And then same thing before, go back into that regular stitch that you were working with. And like I said, sometimes you'll have to maneuver it. All right, so now we're gonna, since our yarn is coming out on this side, we're just gonna grab opposite side and just grab 2 stitches at a time until we get down with our project. Making sure that we don't pull too tight. And following along that same exact row. Excuse me. All right, we are almost done. Still making sure we grab 2 stitches at a time. All right, we can remove our stitch markers. All right, so usually what I do is when I have the tail on this side, so it's closest to me, I want to make sure I end with that tail on the outside. So instead of me grabbing 2, I'm going to grab 1 on this side just to make sure I match up. I'm going to grab those last 2 on this side. And then now I can grab those last 2. All right, same thing that we did before. What I'm going to do is put my hand through that thumb hole, and then all I'm going to do is pull that 1 long piece of yarn, and I'm going to pull it just until I get to that spot right there. You don't want to pull it any further than that. Same thing, give it a nice little stretch, otherwise you will feel that little stitch right through there. And then all I do is just give it a nice little knot. What I'm doing is the very first one, I'm just going to go very, very slightly, so it's not going to be too tight. And then we're going to do one more. This one you can make it a little bit tighter. And then what I'm going to do is cut my slack a little bit shorter. And then all we're going to have to do is just hide in our work. So hide it in between the two layers like you would normally do a hat. We're just going to get those to go all the way through. And then what I usually do is, oh, that one I didn't have to cut. Same thing on the opposite side. There we go. Pull it through. I'm going to cut that just a little bit shorter. Give it a nice little stretch. And there you go, you guys. You have got the beautiful fingerless gloves. Does have some stretch on that side. Does have some stretch on that side. And there you go. Thank you guys for watching.